Hey everyone, welcome to Moving Matt. We do all things cameras with a dash of vlogs and a little bit of travel. And we've been covering this Sony APS-C camera, and a lot of the information has been sparse and been leaking out slowly. But now, according to Sony Alpha rumors, it looks like a whole lot is leaked, and we pretty much have a full spec breakdown. So I'm going to go over these specs and give my thoughts. So the first big reveal we have is that it will be called the ZV-E10. So I'm assuming that the E stands for E-mount, and the ZV alludes to the type of camera it is and the people that it's marketing. Kind of like the ZV-1 that just came out, which marketed content creators and vloggers. So just by the name, it confirms what we've been hearing. Also, it will have a 24 megapixel sensor. And as far as I know, this is the same exact sensor that has been in the A6400. So they're recycling this thing yet again. And it's kind of a disappointment, but considering the price of this camera, which we'll go into later, I think it kind of makes sense. So also it will be pairing along a new kit lens, a 16 to 50, 3.5 to 5.6. So obviously nothing to write home about here, but depending on the price, I think it could be a good value for the people they're targeting with this camera. So the other cool thing is that Tamron is releasing their 10 to 20 2.8 for the APS-C E-mount, and it will be a little bit more expensive of a lens at $829. But the very good thing about recent Tamron lenses are how light they are. I have the 17 to 28 for the full frame, which is their wide angle on the full frame. It's an extremely small and light lens, and I think that the 10 to 20 will pair excellent with an APS-C style camera that is small. So speaking of small, this will be in an A5000 style body with no EVF, so this should be fairly tiny. So the smaller size means it's probably gonna get a smaller battery. I mean, let's cross our fingers that it's going to get a bigger battery, but more than likely it won't. But I do hope that maybe they've worked with the software, or maybe the new processor is a little bit more efficient, and we'll get a good battery life out of this camera. But let's go ahead and go to the video specs, which are really the most important thing here for this type of camera. And Sony Alpha Rumors has it that this will have 4K 25 and full HD at 100. Now, I'm not sure if they're going off the PAL system. I mean, that is a PAL standard. So if that also means it will have 4K 30 and full frame at 120, I kind of think that's going to be the case, because for them to have just 4K 24 really seems a little odd, especially for the type of people that they're marketing this to. A lot of vloggers like to go with the 30 frames per second look because it kind of looks more down to earth and real life. I personally like the 24 frames per second look to kind of make it look more cinematic, but a lot of times if you're just telling your story and you're going through your life, then the 30 frames per second actually works maybe even a little bit better. Now, another big thing for vloggers is the stabilization. This will have the standard stabilization along with the active stabe that's been found in the new A1 and the Sony a7S III. The active stabe is very good in my opinion for those cameras, and I'm really excited to see it come to a smaller body. But it's also a question of maybe they made the standard stabilization quite a bit better, considering it's going to have a smaller sensor. So let's hope they've improved it some, because the A6000 series of cameras had notoriously bad IBIS, so there's definitely room for big improvement in that area. They're also going to be adding some features from the ZV-1, and one of the big features that they're going to be adding is the auto exposure with face priority. I think that is a great feature, especially for vloggers or people who are going to be out running gunning situations and they actually want to be able to maybe be in the shadow with their face and then walk into a bright environment and still keep the exposure right on their face. That can be a really tricky situation to deal with, especially if you don't have one of their larger sensor cameras with really good dynamic range. And since they are primarily targeting those who might be stepping up from their phones to get an actual real camera, this will be a great feature for them. Now, another feature that they're taking from the ZV-1, and I actually think this feature is very great for anybody, whether you're an amateur vlogger or maybe you're doing a lot of product stuff and you want another B cam. This is a really great feature because it allows you to have face priority, but also it actually allows you to switch between product and face priority. So if you were to put a product close to the camera, it will automatically switch to that product. And I think that is great for product reviews or maybe unboxing. This camera that I have now, the A7S III, it doesn't seem to do that very well. I mean, I'm not sure if it's catching it here, but more than likely, it's not gonna focus on the product here. It's gonna be still getting my eye. So for them to have that feature, I think is great. So I'd really like to see them add this feature to the A7S III. I don't see why they could not do that. It's probably just a firmware issue. They could just add it in a firmware, but whether they'll do that or try to force people into buying this new camera, Well, I mean, what are they actually going to do? They're probably going to do that. A new feature that they're going to have is a bokeh button. And so this is going to add to the blurriness of the background by prioritizing aperture. Basically, this is an aperture priority button. At least that's how I see it. But I guess they're just trying to streamline it and market it towards people that maybe do not know what aperture priority means. And they'll probably just have it in the menu saying, hey, do you want a blurry background? This allows you to have that. The next big thing that I think that is going to be very helpful is going to be the USB-C connection. That is a plug and play connection for streaming and webcam uses for this camera. I think that that is a great resource to have, and it's something that is being added to more and more cameras, especially considering how much demand has been for just Zoom calls and webcams in general. So for them to have a streaming option, I think is a very smart move and a very big win. Now, the biggest thing and the most important thing for vloggers is it will have a fully articulating screen. Now, personally, with the A6400, I kind of liked the flip up screen. I like having the screen right above, especially if you're not gonna have an EVF. Why not have the screen flip directly above, so when you are checking yourself, you're looking pretty much directly at the lens. I personally like that system better if you're not gonna have an EVF, but as long as you can see yourself, I guess that's what matters the most. So it's not known if it will have the new menus or a touchscreen. At the price point, I kind of doubt it, but let's hope so, especially if you're targeting people that may be coming from a cell phone. They really expect to have a touchscreen, and there's really no excuse not to have a touchscreen at this point. So finally, we have the price point, and the price point is gonna be $899. I mean, they're saying around $899. I'm guessing that's a target, but $899 really makes sense for me, and I think that is a really smart price for this camera. But what do you think of all these news? If these specs are right, what do you think about them? Do you think that $899 price point works for you? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. And if you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.